mics on? The mics? Are the mics on? I don't know where your on button is. All right, good evening, everybody. We're about to get started. My name is Dr. Monique Craggy, and I'd like to welcome you all to our annual SLMDA evening and the opening of our annual conference as well. So I would like to establish our protocols from early on. We have in attendance our President of SLMDA, Dr. Merle Clark, our distinguished CMO, Dr. Sharon Belmar-George. We've got other executive members of the SLMDA. We have Father Alberts. And of course, we've got just our members of the SLMDA. Thank you for coming this evening. Tonight, we celebrate ourselves, our doctors and dentists who are doing great work. Oftentimes, we are the unsung heroes in the background, diligently working for the health and good of our people. So I just want to say a heartfelt thank you for everything that you do. And for now, I would like to introduce Dr. Merle Clark. She will be she'll be doing our opening remarks and introducing our keynote speaker.
Good evening, everybody. I did not expect Monique to call me so quickly. I was entirely unprepared, apart from the fact I was unprepared, period, because I wrote nothing, in part because this year, and I haven't established protocol with all of this, let's notice. So let me recognize first Dr. Sharon Belmar-George, our Chief Medical Officer. Of course, our Mistress of Ceremonies for this evening, Dr. Monique Craggy. Our specially invited guests, our presenters, see Dr. Malcolm Samuel. In the audience, Dr. Lissa Field-Ridley, those who've traveled to be with us for our conference this weekend, our awardees, members, family. If you're a family member of an SLMDA member, you're family. So we all family in here. Yes. So before I even say anything else, what we will do is we start with the national anthem, and we invite everybody to stand for that. I'm playing it. You may be seated. We will now call on Dr. Father Albert. Dr. Father Albert. If you hear your family, you're Dr. Father Albert, to bless us with the opening prayer.
May I invite us to stand, please? Sorry about that. And for those of us who are Catholic, we may sign ourselves in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Dear God, who is like you, a God who is holy and loving, a source of all blessings, thank you for bringing us together to recognize the hard work, efforts, and dedication of this year's awards recipients. We desire and implore your presence here among us this evening as we honor each one for their love of service, their continued dedication to the profession that you have called them to. Help us always to remember that all glory belongs to you. Thank you for the friends and families who always support our medical and dental professionals, and who in their own way support and encourage these individuals. We ask you, Lord, to bless this evening's proceedings and always be present in their lives, in the lives of all of us. We ask all this through the mighty name of our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Friendly doctors, don't say amen. Amen.
Thank you very much, Father Albert, for blessing our proceedings. Once again, Dr. Clark, can you bless us with your presence?
All right, so protocol being established, we will, as I was saying before, we fixed that little glitch very efficiently, didn't we? This evening, we will be celebrating excellence. I concede, as I was trying to say earlier, that I don't have anything written. I did not prepare something, in part because this year has gone by so quickly, if that's an excuse, and then I guess I've sort of been gallivanting, as my mother says, and I mean, time today just arrived and I had nothing prepared, but it's not about me, it's about us. It's about our awardees this evening. It's about all of us who work with, unlimited resources, who work under, all sorts of strain, and even with that, we do miraculous work. Let's give ourselves a round of applause. We would, as I was saying, of course, this marks the beginning of our annual conference. And from tomorrow, of course, we will gather again, because we gathered here this evening, to share and to learn and to debate, because it's a controversies, updates and controversies conference, and those are always the most exciting type. What is new, what is relevant, so we could debate among ourselves, because learning should never stop. And we as physicians and dentists, we certainly know that. So without further ado, and with currently, I think I dare say, and I was telling Dr. Belma earlier, that crime as a public health issue, about what she'll be speaking this evening, is very relevant. What I think we physicians do not understand, or most healthcare workers don't quite understand what we mean, by, including myself, crime as a public health issue. The other major issue I think we have challenges with, and we need to do better in terms of educating ourselves and educating our members, is climate change, and that's something else we certainly think as an SLMDA that we need to tackle, and we will be doing that. But we'll start this evening because we all are well aware of what the crime situation is, not only here in St. Lucia, but in the Caribbean and indeed the world. So we will introduce this evening's keynote speaker, Dr. Sharon Belma George. Dr. Sharon Belma George presently holds the position of Chief Medical Officer of the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Her responsibilities include the primary and public health management and program implementation. At the administrative level, she is involved in policy formation, program planning, and evaluation. Dr. Belma George supervises the other public health departments, such as the Bureau of Health Promotion, Environmental Health Department, and the Epidemiology Unit in the Public Health Management. Dr. Belma George graduated from the University of the West Indies in 1996 with first-class honors degree in natural sciences, majoring in advanced genetics, molecular biology. She later graduated from the Superior Institute of Medical Sciences in Santa Clara, Cuba in 2004. Dr. Belma has worked as a senior house officer, of the Accident and Emergency Department of the Victoria Hospital until 2008, after which she commenced as a district medical officer at the Grosvenor Polyclinic. In 2010, she joined the Ministry of Health as a senior medical officer. I remember that like it was yesterday. Senior medical officer, where she supervised primary healthcare clinics. She commenced the role as medical officer of health in 2014. In January 2010, she was promoted to the position of she was promoted to the position of Chief Medical Officer. If you remember well, I was right when COVID was starting, what a time. Dr. Belma George completed a certificate in infection control in 2012 and a master's in public health practice in 2013 at the University of South Florida. Dr. Belma George serves as the chair of the Disease Program and Management Committee, Infection Control Committee, Medical Internship Committee. She also serves on the Public Health Board, Medical and Dental Council, and Allied Health Council, and a member of CAMHP. Dr. Belma has served as the Chief Technical Officer in the management of COVID-19 in St. Lucia. She serves as the Deputy Chair of the Command Center, who provides health-related recommendations to Cabinet in relation to COVID-19. Due to a passion for public health, she continues to work to improve the public health systems in St. Lucia. She plays an active role in the prevention and management of public health outbreaks and the coordination of activities with external stakeholders. She is the wife of an airline captain and a mother of 12-year-old twins, twin girl Dominic, twins Ava and Dominic. She enjoys family life and finds tranquility in her thriving flower garden. Dr. Sharon Belma George in your lovely green dress. I have to say, if anybody knows Convent Girls, you know their houses. So they sent Theresa, no, let me start with the best house, St. Maria Goretti's house, which is the Grelier. Yes, Monique. St. Maria Goretti's house, St. Teresa, St. Anne's, what's the other one? Blessed Anne's. The best one, oh please. So Dr. Belma, as an ode to St. Maria Goretti's house, is wearing green this evening. We say thank you, Dr. Belma, for recognizing that we are the best house. So with that, we introduce Dr. Sharon Belma George to deliver this evening's keynote address.
Thank you very much, Dr. Clark, and good evening to everyone. I'm very privileged this evening to be able to present this keynote address, which I think is very relevant based on what we note is happening in country. CARICOM member states, with the support of CARICOM Impacts and other security agencies, with other interdevelopmental partners, they've sought to address crime and violence using a number of approaches. Some of the approaches included the World Bank's recommendation to address crime as a developmental issue, focusing on ensuring a balance between tough law enforcement and social development and crime prevention strategies. Others utilize crime, insecurity, human development, which highlights the need to eradicate exclusion, improve transparency, and create opportunities that encourage a sense of belonging for all. I was very privileged to attend during the 18th and the 19th of April this year, a full conference which was hosted through CARICOM with all of the regional partners, including health, public health, all of the public health agencies, all of the security agencies, psychologists, psychiatrists, full teams, a 2-day conference, looking at the strategies that have been used in the region to manage crime, looking at what has worked, what has not worked. And we note when we see patterns that are not improving, you need to stand back, monitor what you've been doing, and look for a fresh new approach. And it was quite enlightening those 2 days where the data from various countries was presented, how it worked, and it was giving all of the countries a chance to examine what is happening with crime in the area, because St. Lucia is not the only one who's seeing the upsurge in crime. I also want to recognize in my presentation the support of the Assistant Commissioner of Police, Dr. Mashama Seeley, for giving me the data for our crime here in St. Lucia and also explaining to me the main approaches that are being used in managing crime. I tried as much as possible to ensure that my presentation is as relevant as can be to you. So despite the progress that has been made using elements from the different approaches, the escalating levels of crime and violence continues to be of grave concern to the heads of government in the region. And seeing these unprecedented levels of crime, they are determined to address this problem. And through that, an increased focus on violence, they're looking at public health, as a way of managing crime. So I will explain. A lot of persons have said they have no idea how we are linking public health with crime. So I will start from the basics. I will give some definitions. I hope you could see this clearly with the light. I will give some of our national crime statistics. I'll compare how we're doing to the region. I'll explain how crime affects public health, the predominant determinants of violence-associated injuries, the crime management strategies in St. Lucia, and the public health approach to mitigate crime. Crime is an action or mission that constitutes an offense that may be prosecuted by the state and is punishable by law, according to Oxford. And the definition of public health, which, I mean, during COVID, I noted even a lot of our practitioners didn't quite clearly understand what public health meant and what the public health approach is. So public health, and these are definitions from WHO, CDC, and the American Public Health Agency, refers to organized measures, whether public or private, to prevent disease, promote health. It's the science of protecting and improving the health of people and their communities. And this is achieved by promoting healthy lifestyles, researching disease and injury prevention, detecting, preventing, and responding to infectious diseases. According to the American Public Health Agency, public health promotes and protects health of all people and their communities. Science-based, evidence-backed field strives to give everyone a safe place to live, work, and play. And I want to make it very clear, when we speak of public health, we're not talking about the public sector and the private sector. It means the community, it means everybody. So public health refers to health of the entire nation. So the private sector is not out of the public health system. It's referring to the community approach as compared to when a physician sees the clinical approach where you see a patient, one patient at a time. So the public health approach, as you saw, what was common in all of the definitions before, we're looking at health, well-being, safety of the entire population. The importance of collaboration across partners and stakeholders, multi-sectoral, multi-agency, and it's evidence-based, data-driven. So historically, it's adopted the practice of incorporating data and information from a multidisciplinary spectrum across natural sciences and social sciences to inform programs that contribute to health and well-being of populations. So this is, in a nutshell, the WHO steps of the public health approach, where you identify a problem, identify the possible causes, the determinants, the causal factors, develop and evaluate interventions, prevention strategies, and then implementation. And think of the issues dealing with crime. If we use this approach to look at where the problem starts, we look at the determinants, the causal factors, we develop and evaluate the interventions, we look at prevention strategies. If we relate all of this to what's happening with crime, we can already see it will be a lot more effective. We're using data. Whatever we implement, we use data to back it. We implement, we evaluate continuously. So if we learn from others who have experienced and implemented those interventions and programs that have been successful, such as the United Kingdom, where the public health approach was done, and the strategy that they used, targeted action against the incidence of highest harm caused by serious and organized crime, building high levels of defense and resilience in vulnerable people, communities, and businesses, stopping the problem at the source, identifying and supporting those at risk of engaging in criminality, establishing a single whole society system approach. So key to this as well is the infusion of financial resources on a sustained basis and ensuring that there's a multi-sectoral team in the implementation of all programs and interventions. So the lessons that are learned from the implementation of this model prove that targeted violence prevention strategies along the life course are more impactful and generates cost savings that may be deployed to other priority areas for development. I will just give a little bit for you to understand where we are in relation to crime and what the effect that is happening directly on our health system. In relation to injuries and violence to mortality rate in St. Lucia, if we look at the top 10 causes of death in men, and for 2020, I did not use data that's more recent because it's not validated as yet. You'll notice that assaults are now the number 5 for men. It's gone up to number 5, and I would not be surprised if when we look at 2021 and 2022 or even 2023 data, it's a lot closer up the line. The crime statistics against property and against person were the highest crimes for the period 2012 to 2021. So this is what our crime statistics look like for the last 10 years. So crime against persons and against properties, and this came from the Royal St. Lucia Police Force. These were the main areas that we note with crime in St. Lucia. Assaults account for 57% of the top 5 crimes against persons. We noted a decrease in crimes against persons for the period 2012 to 2021. And the statistics collected indicate a reduction in the number of assaults over the past 10 years. Now, when I noted this data, I also wondered about reporting. But this was the data that came from our Home Affairs, looking at how crime has changed and the different causes over the last 10 years. As expected, the increasing trend that we note in homicides for the past 10 years, I did not include what was given to me for 2022 because it was not complete, but from what I saw, it was already more than what we saw in 2021, and based on where we're heading for 2023, we expect it to be even higher. And you notice the big jump from one year to the next. Regional crime statistics. How are we doing if we compare ourselves with the rest of the region? For 2019, Jamaica, Trinidad, Bahamas, Belize, St. Vincent, St. Lucia. 2022, look at how we've gone up. Turks, Jamaica, St. Lucia. Now, child homicide rates for 2017, and we know the more recent data will be even higher. Look at St. Lucia. And because they use up to 17, because of what's happening between the early teenage years for us here. So what we're seeing, our region has the highest homicide rate in the world. Homicide resulted in 194,000 deaths in 2019. The homicide rates are particularly high for men. The age group, 0 to 17 years, the early start of violence. The region of the Americas has the highest child homicide rate in the world, with 5.8 as compared to the global average of 1.7. And particularly high for boys, as compared to girls, but we still, when we compare girls with the rest of the world, we're still double the numbers globally. So how does crime affect public health? So let us look at the intersection of crime with our health system. Physical injuries, we start with the most obvious: loss of limbs, disabilities, chronic health conditions, mental health. The the psychological distress, anxiety, depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, stress and anxiety within affected communities, the chronic stress and chronic illness, substance abuse, the use of drugs as a coping mechanism, addictions, healthcare costs, the use of the treatment of crime-related injuries and mental health issues, the cost of hospitalization, diagnostics, the cost to individual and to society, the cost of sick days, the strain on health resources, the disruption of social services. The high crime rates can disrupt the delivery of essential social services such as education, as we saw in some communities where schools had to be closed down. We had to close down health facilities in some areas at one point. And the overall well-being of communities when we have high crime zones in those communities. The competing resources limit the optimum management of chronic and other conditions due to admissions for injuries and violence, which we see at the hospitals. You look at the ambulance service, that many times persons who may have, say, a heart or stroke or something else, and the ambulance is busy managing a gunshot or stabbing, it's delay in care with persons with other illnesses as well. Emergency room care, when the emergency room is filled with patients based for crime and violence, it means there are less beds to manage persons with other conditions. Hospitalization, diagnostics, the use of the medical and the nursing staff, reduced economic opportunities, deter businesses and investments in certain areas, especially when you look at St. Lucia that relies on tourism as a major livelihood. The economic disadvantages and limited access to resources, including healthcare services, the cost of the management of crime imposes a substantial fiscal burden. So in the year 2018, the Inter-American Development Bank published findings from a study of 17 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, where they focus on the public and private sector spending on security as foregone income. The public expenditure was defined on what was spent on the police, injustices, the prison system, while private sector spending comprised of security-related expenses by businesses and households. Foregone income was estimated as the loss of income by the victims and incarcerated persons. So the IDB was able to estimate the economic cost of crime in Latin America and the Caribbean at over 3% of the regional GDP, which was twice that of developed countries. Of the 4 Caribbean countries that they surveyed, that is the Bahamas had the highest economic cost of 4.7%, Jamaica 4%, Trinidad 3.5%, and Barbados 2.7%. So the estimated loss to the region caused by crime was estimated at about $174 billion US. So crime imposes a substantial fiscal burden. Government spending on crime was, if in the Caribbean region, was higher relative to the regional average of 1.45% GDP. Inequality, crime often disproportionately affects marginalized and vulnerable populations, exacerbating health disparities, public safety concerns. High crime rates can lead to a sense of insecurity, impacting overall well-being and community health, and the avoidance of outdoor activities leading to sedentary lifestyles. We have some communities where people don't feel safe going out. And healthcare workforce stress. Stress and burnout when managing victims of violent crimes and witnessing traumatic events. The predominant determinants of violence associated with injuries. There's definitely a need to address the social determinants of crime, as this as this is of paramount importance, as violence has both a direct effect on human welfare in the short and longer term, the effects on economic growth and social development, the negative impact of crime and violence on development, and the achievement of selected sustainable development goals have stimulated the need for a multi-sectoral whole-of-society approach informed by the determinants of health and crime and violence. So according to PAHO 2023, the predominant determinants of violence associated with injuries, mental health, alcohol and substance abuse, poverty, unemployment, inequalities, lack of safety in the built environment, easy access to alcohol, drugs, firearms, knives, pesticides, weak social safety nets, and a frail justice system. Substance abuse, crime, and deviance. Substance misuse and abuse has a dual impact of being a health, security, and a national security threat. Addiction has a strong correlation with deviant and criminal behavior affecting all of the levels of the socio-ecological system. Alcohol is one of the substances directly linked to crime, especially violent crime, contributing to the rates of injury, disability, and mortality. Trafficking in drugs and efforts to protect the drug market result in the proliferation of weapons, including the years of life lost and loss of potential productivity. The manufacture of new psychoactive substances and novel preparations of traditional drugs need to be placed under the public health and law enforcement radar as an emerging threat to health and security. And this is specific to us here, our new Director of Substance Abuse. As part of a consultation about 2 months ago, a lot of what we did not know is happening within the school system. And this is very typical of not using the public health approach, where none of the agencies speak to each other. So we in health, we're doing our business, Customs and Immigration doing their business, the police doing their business. It was extremely alarming at that consultation when we noted what was happening at the schools, what is happening within the communities. I was very surprised to see some of the products that was confiscated from school children. I thought the drugs in St. Lucia were cannabis. I did not know we had reached the US levels of all of those psychoactive substances. I didn't know it was here. I mean, maybe I was very naive. But there are a lot of those psychoactive substances which are in the developed world that are really here. The other that we have already met with the Ministry of Education. We are collaborating with them on that. It's the products that look like the regular gummies and candies, the Skittles. And I mean, if I pick up the pack, I wouldn't know. It only has a little cannabis leaf in the corner. These products are here and they're being used and shared within our school system. And the police have been confiscating them from school children, but we're not aware that this is something that we should be looking at the effects of it within our population. So the director is now doing an assessment of the problem. We will be putting out a campaign. I'm targeting the main areas of focus because it's, for a lot of us, I mean, if my kids had those, I would never know that it's not Skittles or it's not gummy bears or it's not, it looks like regular candy. And they're laced with a whole set of different substances. Children and crime. So the impact of crime on children goes way beyond just seeing a violent act. It includes the loss, and it's something which we don't really think of. You hear of all those young persons who've been killed, another shooting, another stabbing. A lot of them leave behind young children, young families. And one of the things that was really eye-opening from the data that came out of Jamaica and Trinidad, when they have a lot of the criminals, they actually do a full social background on them, which we don't do in our setting. And when you hear the history of what happened earlier on in their lifestyle, and the fact that earlier on in their lives, and the fact that the necessary social measures were not put in place, they end up as hardened criminals. And it almost got me to a place of seeing the other side. We would see somebody who steals as somebody who steals. You see people as criminals, and it's not like that at all. You have to go a lot further, which within our local setting, we don't collect that level of data to be able to assess accurately. But in those countries, they're able to see what the root cause of persons who partake in criminal acts are, where it started and why it started. So it includes the loss of significant persons in their lives, the emotional health of those children. They're less likely to excel at school, poor performance, higher dropout rate. There's a reduction in the available household funds, and there's an increase in household tasks and responsibilities, reduced development opportunities, reduced opportunities for employment, difficulty maintaining employment, and there's a greater chance of institutionalization and increased truancy. So we need to have programs to be able to manage from very early. The victim is not only the person involved in crime, but everybody around them, and what effect, especially when it comes to children. The education system and crime. Sadly, generally the school environment has become a hostile one. Between 2014 and 2019, assessments of the school environment held in 10 CARICOM member states revealed the presence of gangs in 60 to 97%, the use and the sale of marijuana and other drugs among the student population, theft from the classroom of students, bullying, gambling, inappropriate sexual conduct among students, fighting with weapons, carrying guns and weapons to school. The other thing they noted was dropouts from an earlier stage, and the fear of some students of attending school due to gangs, the ease of access to drugs within the school system, and the ease of access to guns as well. Now, education is a basic human right, and attacks on education through school-based violence ensures that the successive generations are left without the capacity needed to acquire the skills and the knowledge critical to their future. So the importance of the collaboration and cooperation between governmental and non-governmental organizations to increase public awareness has to be stressed. The following provides, I'm just going to give some perspectives on education and crime. The lack of education increases the risk of involvement in crime and antisocial behavior. Low educational attainment decreases employability rates, increasing factors that influence participation in crime and being victim of violence, especially for women and at-risk males. Increases in criminal behavior leads to decreases in motivation to complete higher education. Increases in local community crime decreases the effectiveness of the educational outputs from schools, affecting students' attendance. Education plays a key role in crime prevention, and it can change an individual's preferences, lowering their preference consumption, and focuses children and youth in their future. It also reduces recidivism rates. Thus, attention has to be given to the quality and the focus of the education programs while in prison or in juvenile detention. High rates of crime and violence is a barrier to educational opportunities, and the common forms of school violence are sexual harassment, bullying, the school safety factors, and the protection of children and youth from crime is critical to disrupting the cycle of crime and violence. So the crime strategies in St. Lucia that I got from the police, the main initiatives of the government, new and updated legislation, special police powers, and an investment in social programs. The crime prevention strategies, and I put it just as it was given to me here, to reduce crime and maintain public safety by providing a visible police presence, responding, preventing, investigating, detecting, and acting consistently in partnership with communities while respecting the rights of others, to improve the public perception through community involvement in crime fighting, enhancing citizen security, adopt a proactive approach to crime prevention and problem solving, the provision of safer road traffic environment through public sensitization, enforcement of traffic laws, and stakeholder collaboration, to deliver a professional police service through capacity building training and human resource management, and to improve border management in collaboration with other law enforcement agencies and stakeholders. Some of the gaps and the challenges So I explained earlier what the public health approach is. It focuses on prevention, it uses data, we try to get at the source and not downstream. Policymakers in the region currently lack adequate information and analysis that's necessary to design a whole-of-society approach for preventing and reducing firearm trafficking and violence. The critical gap surrounds the mechanics and impacts of illicit arms flows at the community level and how such illicit markets interact with various manifestations of violence and their public health and social impacts and broader patterns of regional arms trafficking. While researchers in the fields of criminology, public health, violence prevention, and arms control have begun collecting relevant data, important gaps still remain. Data on the non-fatal firearm injuries is very limited, and that conceals the true extent of violence and the root causes and impacts. Information on the cost of treating firearm injuries is not readily available, causing challenges for public health authorities' efforts to assess the burden and deliver the appropriate care to victims. The broader impacts of gun violence on families, communities, and societies, that's only partially understood. So a lot of the information that we need within the region, the major gap of insufficient data, and the lack of data sharing, even among major agencies, to properly define the problem if we are to look for early interventions to be able to manage. So for us here, for example, besides gender, age, social and economic data related to the perpetrator and the victims, other key information, crime method, motive, gang affiliation, pre-existing health conditions, other data is not routinely collected. So from the get-go, if we are to utilize the public health approach to manage crime, the basic data that we would need for implementation of programs is already lacking. The data is not captured in the reporting of crime or for violence, so it makes it very difficult to identify the key causes at the root. The lack of economic and social empowerment of the youth. The conflict with the law directly results in the lack of economic and social empowerment within our societies as young people continue to operate within the margins of the developmental trajectory of the society, and they lack avenues for upward social mobility. Here in St. Lucia, when young persons get involved in crime, there seems to be more a robust law enforcement strategy as part of the juvenile system. And the social and developmental crime prevention initiatives are very low. The juvenile justice system. Across the region, this remains largely underdeveloped, and there are limited avenues for prevention, detection, rehabilitation, and reintegration where youth involved in crime is concerned. So the necessary very early interventions, if we are to manage crime using the public health approach, currently they're not part of what exists here. The unavailability of the required human resource experts within our communities, sustainable financing mechanism for crime, and the limitations on resources here in country. The limited infrastructural capacity to support this mandate. If you look at the facilities we have even to manage the juveniles, we have the Boys Training Center, very few, even some of our police stations, the infrastructure to be able to manage a social system for crime is non-existent. And our legislation is largely outdated. So the public health approach to mitigate crime. Policy, new or revised legislation. So we would need, if we are to use the public health approach, like I indicated earlier, where we use data to see the root cause of the issues, and our implementations, we use evidence-based data to plan the programs, we monitor, we evaluate as we implement. So in relation to the policy, the new and revised legislation, we strengthen strategic partnerships to include the involvement of the population groups that are most affected. The use of new and revised legislation, and we identify dedicated bodies to implement those programs. And also learning from other parts of the world that have used this approach and adapted to our setting. Rehabilitation and reintegration is extremely important. So we would need to review our sentencing guidelines and the use of alternatives to custodial sentencing, the provision of detention centers and training, and we also look at successful primary health models that might also be useful. Strategic information for decision making. We develop a strategy for data collection to create strategic intelligence that could understand the determinants of crime and violence and the social impact of crime. And we continue to conduct research to understand the scope of crime, the causes, the correlations, the risks, and to identify the most vulnerable populations within the region. Youth empowerment is another important area. We ensure that our young people are deliberately included in the economic sphere of member states through the reorganization of the education system to include a focus on skills training. We need to reinforce the existing policies and plans to address community crime and violence prevention. Also to reevaluate the curriculum and education system to deliberately include conflict resolution skills to reduce the culture of violence. Education, we would also need the retraining of teachers to implement strategies, a change, the assigning of social workers and counselors to every school, and also a referral system to provide support and not the automatic criminalization of inappropriate behaviors. If we are to look at crime prevention strategies based on the public health approach, and this would aim to reduce the occurrence of criminal activities and to enhance public safety, and that's really where we should be going, looking at Community policing, that is building positive relationships between law enforcement and the community to address crime collaboratively. And this is really the most important aspect, where we look at the preventative measures. Environmental design, where we implement measures like improved lighting, security cameras, secure access to reduce crime opportunities, crime hotspot analysis. We focus resources in areas with high crimes to deter criminal activity. Youth programs, I spoke a little bit about that as well. Restorative justice, emphasizing rehabilitation and reconciliation instead of punitive measures to address crime and its root causes. Gun control, implementing stricter regulations on firearms to reduce gun-related crimes. Substance abuse, providing support and treatment for individuals. I indicated the link between substance abuse and crime. So we would need to address and provide support and treatment to individuals with addiction issues to reduce drug-related crimes. Education and awareness, educating the public about crimes, risks and safety measures. Victim support services, offering assistance to crime victims in their recovery and to discourage retaliation, which we see in the children of persons involved in crime. It becomes a very vicious circle. And the economic development, improving economic opportunities in disadvantaged areas to reduce crime that's driven by poverty. This was one of the Prime Minister of Bahamas, this is one of the quotes that he made during the symposium in Trinidad. To adequately address crime and violence, a holistic approach must be undertaken, which address economic growth and prosperity, legislative, judicial, police, and education reform. Just to give you a little feedback, after the 2 days in Trinidad, a position paper, I won't go through it because it's quite long. A position paper was presented as part of the regional symposium, a draft consolidated framework. And after listening to all of the discussion during the 2 days, I thought it was really brilliant where they were going. And I guess I was also thinking that by adopting the public health approach, it would not only strengthen crime, but it would also strengthen health, because those are a lot of the things that we are asking within the communities at the primary care level. And a number of strategic objectives came out of that meeting. For me, I was a little disappointed because coming out, although the social measures, although the social measures were there, I still noted that the majority of the framework was still about crime, about supporting the police, and not enough of the support at the level of the community. So I'll just give the broad headings that came out of the framework because it's too much for me to give now. I don't want to be any longer. So they looked at the governance architecture. The second strategic objective was education and training. The third objective was multi-sectoral strategies. And the fourth one was to reduce access to assault weapons. The fifth strategic objective, arts, culture, and sport. I still thought that there was not enough focus on the educational and the community level to combat crime. I think that was my last slide. Thank you. Any questions or no questions?
Let's give another round of applause to Dr. Belmar George. Dr. Belmar, that was certainly an edifying, very interesting topic. Thank you so much. And I hope we've all taken away something from what she's discussed. So we'll be moving on with our evening. I'd just like to make mention of our sponsors. We have Carlisle Laboratories, Medical Protection Society, Peter and Company Distributors, First National Bank, Blue Waters, the Taiwanese Technical Mission, Servier, and Bay Gardens Hotel, who's hosting us right now. Thank you very much to our sponsors. We will now move on to the exciting portion of the evening, the presentation of the awards. We will be starting with our most dedicated team member. And Dr. Dashable will be kindly handing out the awards for us. Thank you. Passion and unwavering determination will see you achieve your goals. Those are the guiding principles of Dr. Samantha Mathre, who from a young age wanted to be a doctor to fix ailments of close family members. The desire only grew as time progressed, and from a relatively young age, steps were underway to fruition. Dr. Mathre graduated from the Latin American School of Medicine in Cuba, after which she successfully completed her internship at Victoria Hospital. She then became a house officer in the Department of Nephrology, which is a subspecialty in internal medicine. Yes, Dr. Clark. She was soon after promoted to senior house officer and later registrar of internal medicine. In nephrology, Dr. Mathre discovered a deeper love for medicine and found a specialty that she pursued. At the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, she worked tirelessly as part of the team at the respiratory hospital, the sole aim being caring and working towards successful outcomes for her fellow citizens. As a result of her hard work, dedication, and compassion, she received the Team Spirit Award for leadership, an ability to encourage and motivate her fellow staff members to always aim to provide optimal patient care. Dr. Mathre serves on the executive of the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association, as well as multiple subcommittees of this association. She serves on the board of the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Council and has completed her postgraduate diploma in renal medicine, nephrology, following in the footsteps of her mentor, right? In her spare time, she loves to read, travel, spend time with her partner, family, and pups, as well as exploring our beautiful island home. Dr. Mathre lives by the following words, and being a doctor has certainly put said words into even sharper perspective. Life is short, and in the blink of an eye, your reality can change. Laugh hard, love harder, and in everything you do, give it your all. Her mantra, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, you have to keep moving forward. By Dr. Martin Luther King. So, Dr. Sani Mathre, please come forward. Dr. Belmar. Dr. Belmar, can we have you come in? Our next awardee will be the Outstanding Intern. And it is my pleasure to introduce somebody who is currently working in my department in anesthesia and ICU. Dr. Kyra Joseph is currently employed as a house officer at OKU. Like I said, she works in the anesthesia and ICU department with us. From a very young age, she has shown academic prowess, earning the placement of 8th on the island after completing her common entrance, 9 grade 1s in CSEC examinations, and graduated summa cum laude from the Latin American School of Medicine in Cuba after 7 years. During these years, she participated in a myriad of extracurriculars and clubs, including, but not limited to, Young Leaders, Student Leader, Rank Prefect, Pair Helper, Swimmer for the Club Racers, and Representative for St. Lucia at regional swim meets. In Cuba, she was a student tutor for pathology and later internal medicine, and was elected head of the tutors for pathology. She also participated and placed second in the Miss Caribbean pageant in Cuba in 2016. As seen from her accomplishments, Kyra has and continues to prove herself to be hardworking and diverse young woman who is committed to doing her best. Congratulations, Dr. Joseph. Please come up. Yes. Our next awardee is our outstanding junior physician. Dr. Christy Gerald is a senior house officer in the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology at the Owen King EU Hospital. She has been stationed in this department for the past 4 years and plans to one day specialize in this field, with an emphasis on maternal fetal medicine. Dr. Gerald currently serves as the physician co-lead of her department's accreditation committee and has used this opportunity to develop exemplary leadership and team building skills as she passionately encourages her team members to strive for excellence. She also served as a co-facilitator of the Ministry of Health PAHO training on the management of obstetric emergencies in March of 2023, which targeted antenatal care providers across St. Lucia, ranging from physicians to midwives and nurses from both primary and tertiary level care institutions. Dr. Gerald's passion for women's health was also demonstrated in a recent presentation at her local church on women's health screening in October of this year. Dr. Gerald currently serves as the Assistant Secretary of the SLMDA and is a member of the Outreach and Continuing Education Committees. She previously served as the Junior Physicians Representative from 21 to 23 and was also a member of the Education and Outreach during this time. She was last year's recipient of the Most Dedicated Team Member. Dr. Gerald is thankful for the opportunity to step out of her introverted comfort zone and to serve others while growing personally and professionally. Amidst these experiences, Dr. Gerald's most rewarding encounters are those spent one-on-one with patients, especially laboring mothers. Dr. Gerald believes that during this time, when patients are beyond worried, frustrated, and anxious, her main goal is to be a source of comfort, empathy, and reassurance while providing clinical care. Dr. Gerald can still be heard while on call duty, encouraging patients to name their babies after her. And yes, I have heard this for myself during a C-section. She has gone as far as suggesting that she be named godmother, yes, after assisting with arduous deliveries. It remains to be seen whether this suggestion will come to fruition. So far, no. Dr. Christy Gerald, please come on. Dr. Belma. Okay, our next award will be our Outstanding DMO. Dr. Delphina Werner has completed multiple studies within the medical field. She has worked in the ER at VH, Tapio, and currently at Rosalie Polyclinic, and she has now settled as a DMO. She received her postgraduate diploma in respiratory medicine in 2020, just before the outbreak of COVID-19. And she joined the Ministry of Health COVID response team and assisted them greatly. I'm sure Dr. Belmar George can attest to that. Dr. Werner currently works as the District Medical Officer at the Rosalie Polyclinic, but she'll also serve at other wellness centers such as Moshi, Babano, Laguerre, François, and La Claire Wellness Centers. She is passionate about patient care and education. She believes that the more equipped and empowered patients are, the better they are able to understand and work with the physician in managing their health. In keeping with this, she has been the recurring host of the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association television show Healthwise. She is also part of the Heart's Clinical Subcommittee, which aims to improve cardiovascular risk management in the patient population. Outside of work, Dr. Werner spends her time with her husband Joshua and two girls, Abigail and Ariel. She's a member of the Easy Cruisers Riding Club, which is actively involved in charitable work. She also volunteers some time to the Lions Club of Rosalie, and when time permits, she enjoys socializing with friends, reading, baking, and catching up on a good show. So let's give a round of applause to Dr. Werner. Unfortunately, she's unable to be here this evening. So if Dr. Deanne Ferdinand... Oh, sorry. Mr. Werner. She's doing some postgraduate work in Japan right now. Our next awardee is Outstanding Dentist. And this is somebody I studied with personally in Trinidad. Dr. Randall Borai is a graduate from Delaware Valley College in Pennsylvania, where he attained his Bachelor's of Science degree in Biology Pre-Medicine. During his early years at Delaware Valley College, he developed a passion for scientific research and later went on to pursue a Master's of Science degree in Biology at Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey. Whilst at Rutgers University, he did research in plant genetics and tissue culture, which later led to his first publication in plant genetics. After completing his master's degree, he returned to St. Lucia, where he began working as a lecturer at the Sir Arthur Lewis Community College and University of the West Indies Open Campus, where he taught biology and genetics respectively. He is also a graduate of the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus, where he attained his Doctor of Dental Surgery degree, with his focus being in child dental health, restorative dentistry, and oral diseases. Dr. Borai, congratulations. Mr. Belmar. Our next awardee is our Outstanding Physician. And like his rounds, his biography is short and sweet. Dr. Alwyn Benjamin is a consultant internist attached to the Tapia Hospital at OKU Hospital for the past 4 years. He did all his training at the University of the West Indies, Cave Hill, and St. Augustine campuses. He has a passion for academic medicine and has played a key role in the management of inpatients and outpatients during this pandemic. We welcome Dr. Alwyn Benjamin. Didn't I say short but sweet? And our final awardee for the evening is for the Lifetime Achievement Award. Tonight we'll honor Dr. Menz I. Monso. He's a consultant anesthesiologist serving at St. Jude's Hospital. He completed his training in Myanmar, where he served in multiple capacities in his home country as research medical officer, civil assistant surgeon trainee and specialist, including inducing anesthesia. He also worked for 2 years in Jamaica before relocating to St. Lucia, where he has remained from 1999 until now. He's been working as a consultant at the St. Jude's Hospital. Dr. So retired this May. He has made several indelible improvements at the St. Jude's Hospital and has helped train some junior doctors. Dr. So, we thank you for your many years of dedication and professionalism. Dr. Belma, if you could come up. Dr. So, would you like to say a few words? Yes.
Thank you for recognition about my service in St. Lucia for all these years, and I'm very happy to be recognized, and what I was done in St. Jude Hospital for the improvement of anesthesia system, at least in St. Jude Hospital, and some ICU management protocol, and then the recording system. Most of the time, just changing from data to electronic form. That is what we are going now. But at the time when 1999 I was there, it was not there. So I just tried to get it. Now we are easily getting data for anesthesia, and we can analyze annually whatever level you want to analyze. We can do only basic right now because the lack of other supporting department in St. Jude Hospital. And I'm very thank you for everybody to recognizing me again. Thank you.
So once again, let's give a big round of applause to all of our awardees. We would now have a musical interlude. I'm not sure, musician. Is the musician here? Okay, while we are waiting on the physician, Dr. Clark, can you come up for a minute, please? Then we need
What you want me to say?
We want to say a big thank you to Dr. Sharon Belma George. So,
Miss Maria Garazzi, thank you very much. But a vote of thanks will be given by, oh, that is true.
that's true.
So
We
many
have a
glitches
gift
tonight.
for you, Dr. Belma. Our president has forgotten. I feel like we'll need to remind them of this next year. Okay. Since our musician seems to be MIA, we'll now go through the vote of thanks. Dr. Indel Niles, can you please come? Sorry, Dr. Tobias, please. The musician is MIA, so. Is he coming? Dr. Tobias, just come and do the votes of thanks, meanwhile. We'll get the music, maybe during cocktails.
President of the St. Lucia Medical and Dental Association, Dr. Mel Clark, our Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Sharon Belma George, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Health, isn't there? Executive of the SLMDA, presenters, our sponsors, Carlisle Laboratories, Peter and Company Distributors, First National Bank, Blue Waters, the Taiwanese Technical Mission, Servier, Bay Gardens Hotel, and the Medical Protection Society, MPS. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. It is with great pleasure that I extend the vote of thanks to you here this evening. Special thanks to our Chief Medical Officer, who is a close friend. And I must say, I think we have one of the best chief medical officers in the region. For your presentation, and who is always willing, and who is maybe one of the most approachable persons there is. Thank you, Dr. Belma George. Congratulations again to all our awardees. Dr. Clark and I always just about whether when we transition from being junior doctors to non-junior doctors. And I think, I'm gonna accept it at last when I see persons receiving awards. Dr. Joseph, who I don't even know if she remembers me, but I met before she even went, and her mom to Cuba. Her mom was so anxious about her going to Cuba. Then Dr. Benjamin, who was, when I tell people, Dr. Benjamin was a student doing electives when I was a house officer. People are like, what? So I think we have transitioned. But thank you, and congratulations to all the awardees. Many thanks for you here today to share with those persons. And we invite you to mingle and to have cocktails with us. Also, every award ceremony from the time I've known myself and I've been hosting, emceeing, I always compliment the ladies on their attire. And this year, same thing. Wow. Okay. And I must say, some of the gentlemen look quite dapper as well, okay? So there is a photographer here, so I don't think you all should leave without treasuring those memories with some photo shoots afterwards. So once again, we thank you all for being here this evening, and do enjoy the rest of the night. Thank you.